Alright, good evening everybody. Let me first put a disclaimer out there stating that this is the first ever video I've made of any of my fly tying endeavors, so I apologize if the quality is substandard. I realize that the quality of my camera now on my laptop is going to need an upgrade here if I continue to do these types of things. But what I want to tie this evening is a pattern that I call the Slinky Sculpin, and it's essentially a mashup of various sculpin patterns that I've seen, primarily the woolhead sculpin and then some articulated sculpins. Um, Utilizes a sculpin helmet, which is a great little benefit. Thank you, Fish Skull, for coming out with that. Thank you very much. Uh, this is slightly articulated. It's not a really big rear body. It's just a little tail to give it a little bit of extra wiggle as it's settling down, as you're stripping it or dead drifting it through the water column or on the bottom. It's just going to shake a little bit there. So nothing real complicated. It's pretty straightforward. Some mallard, wood duck dyed mallard flank, and then some of this grizzly saddle hackle that I dye to this brownish olive color. I like to buy a lot of my materials, I guess, raw and dye them myself. Word to the wise, though, if you're going to use the home kitchen for it, don't use the good pots because it does not make for a happy wife if you ruin a $60 pot with some acid dyes. So what I'm going to do first is take a couple of the tips off of Hairline's Grizzly Marabou in Sculpin Olive. I like to give it a little press between the lips there so that they behave, because we all know that marabou is an absolute joy to tie with when it gets all over the place. Tie that in there, give about the length of the hook shank, I guess. Next, tie in your hackle. I like to kind of tie this in just like flat with the hook, because as I wrap it forward, I'm then going to stroke the fibers back so it gives a little bit of flow to the back, so you're not having your hackle stick all over the place. I guess it's just a little obsessive thing that I have. You're going to see me reach up behind my ear too a couple times during this. I make my own tying wax, and it's just kind of like a black cobbler's wax, but it stays in better working order with body temperature, and your ear is a great place to keep it. Thank you to Jeff Dickey for that. I believe John McClane is still selling it, and I think he dubbed it Jeff Dickey's earwax. So great idea, Jeff. Thank you for that. The dubbing that I use is just a crawdad, or the crawdub in brown olive, and I'm not real careful about how much, how little. It really doesn't matter, because you're just basically covering up the hook shank. But that crawdub with that SLF kind of feel to it gives it just a little bit of flash. I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but I like it. Do about 4 or 5 wraps of this hackle. Just work it up the body. I don't know, was that 6? bunch of wraps at the front, tie it off, 4-turn whip, and the tail section is complete. And to connect it to the main body, I like to use 50-pound, 50-pound spider wire in the stealth green. It just adds with the color scheme. Trapped a couple of fibers in there. Alright. Too short of a tag. Alright. Excuse me. Now, I like to take and make it about 2/3 of the shank that I tie it in. So it makes, I don't know, about a 2.5 inch fly. Just kind of lash it going up. I like to tie it to the point of where I'm going to tie off excuse me, where I'm going to tie off the wool. When I put the Sculpin helmet on, it kind of gives me a measuring point. So about 3/4 of the hook shank, I guess, is going to get you to where you need. So you lash it the whole way up, and then I like to pull it back down to make sure that it's secure. With this, you don't have to mess around with any sort of super glues or anything like that, because you're doubling it back on itself, and it's going to be really hard to pull that hook. I've never had one do it, so excuse me. Alright. So the next piece is when I take one of the webbier feathers off of the same saddle. It's more of a Sculpin kind of feel to it. Tie that in the same way. And then we're just going to make a dubbed body again. A little bit more. Misjudged it. Alright. Same thing. 4 or 5 wraps of this. Get those flowing back. I like to get the hackle long enough so that it kind of lays over the spider wire there. God, I don't know, it masks it a little bit. It doesn't. I guess it doesn't really matter because of the color of the spider wire, but I don't know, another little obsessive thing. Then I take the wood duck dyed mallard flank and give it 2 wraps with the full feather. I don't worry about stripping one side of it because it'll just kind of interplays with everything once it's locked in. 1, 2. That combed out a little bit. Next thing I do is take the Sculpin wool by Hairline in the Sculpin olive color, and I like to kind of lay it out flat and then just wrap it kind of around the hook shank. It's gonna, I guess kind of like a pseudo spinning of the wool, and I like to keep it about the same length as the hackle in the wood duck. Just kind of get that in there. Oops, thread broke for some reason. Must have cut it. Big chunky wool head. Just wrap it around, one loose, one tight. Just bind it down with a bunch of wraps. Now comes the fun part, trying to trim this stuff off. Okay, get a little bit here. Bring it back and you can just tie it, because the way the inside of the Sculpin helmet is that it's gonna, as you build this taper up with the excess that you cut off, it's just gonna slide over top of that, and we'll hit it with a little bit of super glue, and it'll seat nicely on that. 3 turns there. What I do with it? Right. Hit this with a shot of super glue. And take and slide the Sculpin helmet on. You should leave it so that you've got this little piece out, so that you can reattach your thread and build a dam up in front of it. You gotta be kidding me. Must be a sharp edge on that. And you just tie your thread up. Continue with that. So you've got a nice piece in front of it to retain it. Then whip it off. 4 or 5 turns. Do some grooming. Get all the extra little length off of it. There's a slinky Sculpin. Pretty wicked little pattern. Thanks for watching.